only franchise that has not made a playoff since the realignment in 2002. And you figure that Rex Ryan, with as good as a defense as he has, and his, you look at his history with the Jets, how dominant his defense was, especially the first 2 years he was there.
Mm-hmm.
You expected that to continue under Ryan. And under Ryan, the last 2 years, both years, 15th in points allowed and 19th in yards allowed, after being 5th in both of them and Maroon's full season. So Ryan didn't do what he was supposed to do on defense. Now, on offense, he did, because they led the NFL in rushing this year, and they led last year as well.
Mm-hmm.
And this year they had the second most rushing touchdowns. So he's definitely run the ball well, which is what Rex Ryan loves to do with the ground and pound. But his defense has not performed as well. And if you're Buffalo, that's what you wanted to see, is them come out and have this really aggressive defense where they were dominating teams and setting the trend defensively, and he just didn't do that.
Let's take a look at the AFC playoff picture. These are the teams that are in. The Patriots winning the AFC East. The Raiders essentially winning the AFC West. That's still to be decided. The Steelers win the AFC North, and the Texans win the AFC South. Chiefs and Dolphins are the wild card. How about the Miami Dolphins, 10-5 and back in the playoffs?
Yeah, and you look at the teams that have struggled since the realignment, okay? And that starts with the Raiders, who have only made one postseason appearance, and that was in 2002. The Browns, they only made one postseason appearance, and that was in 2002. And the Dolphins, they've only made one postseason appearance, and that was in 2008 when they won the AFC East when Tom Brady wasn't there. And that was a year after they were 1-15. Mm-hmm. And Chad Pennington came in and led them to the postseason. So the Dolphins, every time that they've had a chance under Ryan Tannehill to take that next step and be a playoff team, they haven't been able to do that. So what happens? Ryan Tannehill goes down with an injury, and comes Matt Moore the last 2 weeks and plays unbelievably well in leading them to wins at the Jets and at Buffalo, something that Tannehill, who knows if he would have done that, because in his career, the Dolphins have only won the season series from the Jets twice, in the last 10 or so years, and Tannehill had only done it once. So with Matt Moore coming in, 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, completion percentage of just under 59%, throwing for 515 yards, and a rating, quarterback rating of over 113. I think he gave them that little extra that, Tannehill still has to prove. Mm-hmm. So who knows if they would have done it with Tannehill. But I know that they did do it with Matt Moore. And those 2 wins over the Jets and Buffalo, where their offense scored 34 points in each game, was huge.
Absolutely.
Especially after they had lost to the Ravens. Because if you remember, right in the middle of that streak, after starting 1-4, they've won 9 out of the last 10 games, and the only loss was to the Ravens,
mm-hmm.
and they got blown out in that game. So you figured after they lost to the Ravens that they were going to take a step back. But then they had 3 really huge wins, including one over the Cards at home and 2 road wins, 2 divisional road wins. And now they're at a spot this Sunday where the game doesn't matter. They're in, the Patriots are in. There's no real advantage to them either having a number 5 or 6 seed. I don't think they do it with the Chiefs and Raiders. I don't think it's going to matter anyway. So them being in position where they are, both of them, I don't think Dolphins and Patriots have much to play for. As a matter of fact, I think the Dolphins they're set at the number 6 right now. So they can't gain anything with a win on Sunday.
AFC West will be decided on Sunday. The Chiefs win the West with a win and an Oakland loss. The Raiders, all they have to do is just win, but they're playing Sunday minus their leader, Derek Carr. Which one is likely to happen and why?
Well, I think the Raiders are in trouble You don't know how Matt McGloin's gonna play. The last time he really consistently played was 2013, and I wrote an article about this too. Is the only thing the Raiders have to look to as far as a backup quarterback coming in and performing well in a situation like this was with the Giants, Jeff Hofstad. And if you remember, Sims getting hurt in a late season game against Buffalo in the Meadowlands, it was just a dreary, dreary day. I believe it was December 15th, 1990. A Saturday game between the Bills and the Giants, with Jim Kelly got hurt in as well.
Yeah.
And if you remember, Frank Reich had to come in the next week and lead them to a division title over the Dolphins. But Kelly eventually came back to the playoffs. When Sims got hurt that day, people thought he just had a sprain. They thought he'd be able to come back to the playoffs. And Hostetler had to leave the divisional wins, the last 2 games of the season, on the road to get them to the playoffs. And he was able to. Actually, what the divisional wins? He led the win over at Arizona and at New England final two. That clinched the NFC West East Giants. And going into the postseason, you still didn't know if Sims was going to be back. And then finally, at the end of December, they said that Sims had a break in his foot and couldn't play. And now Hostetler had to lead them to in their postseason run. But the one thing that wasn't set at the Giants is whether they were going to get a first-round bye and a division title. They were able to get both those things the last 2 games under Hostetler. So here the Raiders face the same thing. Here comes McGloin in a chance where the Raiders have a chance to either win the division and get first-round bye, home field advantage, in that second round, or they have to go on the road, play 3 road games just to get to the Super Bowl. So one is a major advantage, the other is a major disadvantage, especially with a backup quarterback. But they have to go into Denver, and a place where the Broncos, the defending champions, their season's over after their loss last week to Kansas City, and they're not just going to pull over and die. So it's going to be a real tough spot for McGloin to win in that situation, because you know that the Broncos are going to come out there and be ready to play. All right? The Chiefs, on the other hand, they get the Chargers, who the Chargers have on their resume the only team that the Browns have beaten this year. So you know that the Chargers, first of all, you know the Chargers can play with anybody, as they showed earlier this year when they beat the Chiefs this year. So Kansas City has their work cut out for them already. So you don't know from week to week what you're going to start, but you do know that they can play with anybody. Okay. My bad. The Chargers lost to that big one where the team overcame a huge deficit. So the Chargers are going to be pissed off, knowing they want to get back and blowing that. But the Chargers have done that all year when they won the fourth quarter, and now they have to kind of embarrass to the Browns. So both you're looking at the Broncos and Chargers, who are both going to be at home. In essence, playing bad seasons from both of them. With the Broncos, they are obviously defending champions, and more were expected of them. And the Chargers, they always kind of disappoint, and they always seem to underperform. So both of them have a chance to at least end the season on a bright note. So for both the Chiefs and the Raiders, this is going to be a tough spot. Now, I would give the advantage to the Chiefs in that situation, because I think the Raiders are going to have a little tougher time winning at Denver than the Chiefs will have at San Diego. But strange things have happened all season, Brian.
Taking a look at the NFC playoff picture, not as clear as the AFC. The teams that are in are the Cowboys, the Falcons, the Seahawks, and the Giants. The Packers have a chance to win the NFC North, and so do the Lions. They go head-to-head in Detroit this weekend on Sunday Night Football to have a chance to win. Each team has a chance to win the NFC North, and we'll start our Week 17 preview. We're in our Week 17 preview, but we'll start right there in the NFC. NFC North title on the line in Detroit. The Green Bay Packers and the hottest quarterback right now in Aaron Rodgers taking on Matthew Stafford and the Detroit Lions, who lost a key game, and that's an understatement, on Monday in Dallas after they've taken the lead. Who has the advantage in the NFC North Championship?
Well, if you asked me a couple weeks ago, obviously you would have said the Lions because they had a 2-game lead, and they had beaten some tough teams. You know, they beat Minnesota on Thanksgiving at home. They beat the Saints in New Orleans. So they had some tough wins. But then you're looking at their schedule, you said, geez, they have 2 road games against the 2 best teams in the NFC here. This is where Green Bay can catch up. And as long as Green Bay keeps winning, which at 4-6, you thought they were done. And Aaron Rodgers said, no, we're going to go on a little run here. And all Aaron Rodgers done during their 5-game win streak is throw for 11 touchdowns, no interceptions, a QBR of over 85, which is the best in the NFL in that period, a completion percentage of over 70%, and for just under 275 yards a game. So I think that's pretty good. And look at the Packers; they're used to playing in these games to decide the division on the last day of the season. This is the 4th straight year that they've done that. 2013, they beat the Bears. 2014, they beat the Lions. And then last year, they lost to the Vikings. So they're used to deciding the games coming down to the final game of the year to win the division. But the Lions got a lot to play for because their history is really pathetic. And we talked about this before. They've only won 3 division titles, which the Jets are the only team that have won fewer since the NFL merger. And their fans are just about ready to jump off the bridge because they at least figured that they would have a playoff spot wrapped up by now. And if the Redskins lose to the Giants, then they will, because it doesn't matter at that point. If the Redskins lose, then both the Packers and Lions will be in. It just matters of who's going to win the division.
You know what? I have to lean with the Packers on this one, even though I made a bet with my buddy who's a Packer fan. He asked me last night, are you still leaning with the Lions to win the division? Even though the game is in Detroit and every piece of bad history about the Lions can be erased with a Lions win on Sunday Night Football, I can't do it. Aaron Rodgers is too in control right now, and he's on fire. Aaron Rodgers has been here before. Yeah,
and Aaron Rodgers has been so unbelievably good the last couple of weeks, and he's the best quarterback in the NFL now. If you ask me, Rodgers, you take Rodgers off the Packers, and you would have a team that maybe won 3 or 4 games, I think. So, Rodgers is going to do what he's done his whole career, which is play very well, especially in games like this. Rodgers seems to be at a different level than anybody else in the NFL. And if you're the Lions, Matthew Stafford has had a great year. The Lions offense has had a pretty good year. But the thing the Lions have done continually this year has been able to come back in the 4th quarter. When you think of the fact that in all but one of their games, they've trailed at one point in the 4th quarter. So they're used to playing close games. But I just don't see how the Lions are going to win this game because the Packers, they just have their number. And if you look at Aaron Rodgers' career against the Lions, 12-3 in his career against the Lions, 30 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, a quarterback rating over 108, going for just under 4,000 yards in those 15 games. For a completion percentage over 66%. I don't see how that's going to change on Sunday.
I don't
and
either.
The Lions are going to have to play their best game, okay? And then especially if the Lions are going to that game knowing that there's no chance for a first-round bye, which, unless both the Falcons and the Seahawks lose, the Lions will be playing for either a 3 or 4 seed. So, if there's motivation to where if they win, they now get a first-round bye. That might add a little bit more to it. But if there's not enough ready for a division title that they seemingly had wrapped up a couple weeks ago, and if you look into it, I mean, really in 2014, the same thing happened with the Lions. They had a comfortable lead in 2014. The Packers were able to come back and win the division. Winning on the final game of the year in Green Bay. But the Lions still made the postseason that year and lost to the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
So the same thing could happen this year as long as the Redskins lose. But if you're Detroit, you got to be really disappointed if you don't get that home playoff game and if you don't get that division title, which is very rare for Detroit, who hasn't won a division title since 1993.
Who's the most dangerous team going into the postseason in the NFC right now? Who are your two most dangerous teams in the NFC right now going into the postseason?
Yeah, it's because I had talking to a couple guys yesterday. One of them was high on the Falcons. You look at Matt Ryan's numbers this year, 34 touchdowns, 7 picks. I think that's the 6th best touchdown interception ratio in the history of the NFL for a single season. And Ryan has made this season such an improvement over his overall career numbers. And the Falcons, with the number one offense in the NFL, have really stepped up. And they can throw the ball downfield. They can throw the ball against everybody. And they would possess matchup problems for teams like the Giants and maybe teams like the Cowboys. But then the Cowboys also possess some problems for them, too, because the Cowboys' offensive line is so dominant that they'll be able to continually move the ball and hold the ball against the Falcons to where maybe the Falcons won't have a chance to get on the field. I saw an interesting stat yesterday for Ezekiel Elliott, okay? On Monday night, he had 8 yards rushing before contact. For this season, Elliott has 999 yards before contact, which would be 10th in the NFL overall, just before contact. Okay, so that gives you an idea of how dominant that offensive line is for Dallas. And, with Prescott throwing for, you could pass Peyton Manning for the 4th most yards for a rookie in NFL history. And him and Elliott have already become the first rookie tandem for Elliott throwing 20 touchdown passes. Prescott throwing 20 touchdown passes and Elliott running 15 touchdowns. The first ever rookies to do that in NFL history. They're such a lethal combo, and they know how to work so well behind that offensive line. It's kind of hard to look at the way they played this year and think that any of those other teams have an advantage over them. I think they could play with them. Where you look at Dallas, you don't see what you see in the Patriots, which the Patriots should have an easy ride to the AFC title. There are enough teams in the NFC that could maybe jump up and bite Dallas. But overall, you'd have to say the team with the best chance to beat Dallas has got to be the Giants because they've already beaten them twice. All right? And I have memories of the Jaguars in 1999 when 14-2. There were only 2 losses to the Titans, and then they wound up playing the Titans in the
AFC Championship.
And AFC Championship and losing to them. So, but the Giants, either way, they're going to get in the first round either Seattle, Green Bay, or Atlanta. Okay, so pick your poison. I mean, those are 3 pretty tough teams to play in the first round. And then they got to go if they win that game, either Dallas or one of the other 3 teams again. So getting to Dallas is going to be a hard thing for the Giants. You know they can beat Dallas, but you also saw with Eli Manning, you don't know what you're going to get. They could move to anybody as well. So I would say if the Giants come to play, and if Eli is, if you see from Eli what we saw from him in 2007 and 2011 when they made their run to the Super Bowl, then the Giants are going to be really tough to beat. But the key to this is in Eli Manning and how he's played.
Man, you had just answered my question of will we see a third meeting between the Cowboys and the Giants. That is one of my hopes to see that. Here's a question for you. Mm-hmm. Between these 2 teams, the Redskins and the Buccaneers, if either of those 2 teams get in, Who has the best chance and why?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. I'd say the Buccaneers have played shockingly well at times this year. All right, you look at their resume. They've beaten the Falcons. They've beaten the Chiefs. They've beaten the Seahawks. They've beaten the Saints. Okay, so they've beaten some really good teams. But then you look on the other hand, and also they took the Raiders to overtime. All right, now it was at home, but they took the Raiders to overtime. So they played really tough, and they beat some really good teams. But then you look on the flip side, they've lost at Arizona, a game they were blown out, 47. They've lost to the Rams. They've lost to the Broncos, and they didn't really play well in beating the 49ers 34-17. But that was kind of a close game up until the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So you don't know what you're going to get from the Buccaneers. There's times where they've showed they can play with anybody, and there's times they've showed they've struggled. Now the Redskins, you're going to get an offense that can put numbers up, but I'm not sure that they can stop enough people defensively, and I certainly don't think that they're good enough. Even if they get past their first game and win a wild card game, I don't see them going much further than that. They're just not good enough. They haven't shown enough consistency. So I would say the team with the hardest chance, if they make it to advance, would be the Redskins. Where the Buccaneers, at least there's that hope that they can show the team that was able to beat, the Seahawks and the Falcons during the regular season can show up.
Talking NFL playoff scenarios here. Mark Kelly on the line with me as we have Kelly's NFL review as we set up Week 17. I have one simple question. What the hell happened to the Vikings?
Yeah. I don't and the funny thing is the Vikings, when the season started, people thought the Vikings were going to be in trouble because they lost Bridgewater, and then you wondered, geez, these guys, that was what they were counting on when the season began. As a quarterback in Bridgewater, that was going to be, like in the following of Russell Wilson, the next really good option quarterback, a guy that gives you a lot of different qualities. He's not a traditional drop-back passer.
Right.
And then you looked at all the offensive weapons that Minnesota had. You look at the dominant defense they had, and you say, wow, these guys could be one of the best teams in the NFL this year. And then you look at the fact that they started off winning their first 5 games, and they beat some pretty good teams in their first 5 games, including winning on the road at Carolina. They beat the Giants very easily in a Monday night game at home. They beat the Texans. They slapped them around 31-13. And then don't forget, also in their season opener, they beat the Titans and then beat the Packers in week 2.
Yep.
So they had some impressive wins right away to start the season. But also, you look at other teams that started the year really strong. The Eagles started 3-0. They wound up with a losing record. The Ravens started 3-0. They're 8-7 and not making the playoffs. The Broncos started 4-0. They're at 8-7. They won't make the playoffs. And finally, Vikings 5-0. They could finally wind up with a losing record if they're 7-9, and at worst finish 500. To me, the Vikings were a lot like the Falcons last year. Falcons started 5-0. They wind up with an 8-8 record. But you looked at how the Falcons were able to come back this year. So I think the Vikings are, they have a lot of talent defensively. So they'll be in a position to where next year they should pick up where they left off, with Bridgewater back, and we'll see where they go from there.
Yeah,
you trust that they learned a lot from what happened this year, and they'll be able to be one of the better teams in the NFC next year.
Yeah, disappointing finish for the Vikings, but they have a lot to look forward to next year. Let's stay in the NFC North as we take a peek at what's going on. Where do the Bears go from here?
Gosh. Well, you tell me. I mean, being around there, what do you see? What have you seen in Matt Barkley this year to show that he's deserving of getting that quarterback job next year? Because you can't think that Jay Cutler is going to be back with the way he's played. Matt Barkley, 8 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, but he's shown some really good flashes at times. What do you think? Do you think he's got a chance to come back and be their starting quarterback, or do you see Brian Hoyer when he comes back? What do you see for them?
I don't think you keep any of them. You dig into the first round of the draft and you get a quarterback that you can hand the keys to, let him learn the offense, and let him take his lumps. You know,
so who would you say that would be, though, Brian?
You know, I got a buddy of mine who is pining for either Deshaun Kaiser or Deshaun Watson. Okay, and given the Bears' offense and the way they run their offense, neither one will fit. Okay, but if you draft one of those two, the offensive line of the Bears must improve. Period. You gotta build the offensive line.
Right, I would say so. Yeah, because it's funny. You look at the 3 quarterbacks. Each of them have made 5 starts this year. Barkley, Hoyer, and Cutler. Each of them are 1-4. And Hoyer's put up the best numbers by far: 6 touchdowns, no picks. Throw to the second most yards, only 40 less than Barkley, and a rating that's just under 100 with a completion percentage at 67%. But Hoyer as well. Hoyer usually puts up good numbers, but what he doesn't usually do is win. So you look at him and he'll have 8 more touchdowns and interceptions, yet the team will be under 500. So that's always made me wonder exactly what isn't he doing to win games, and ultimately that's what you need to do as a quarterback.
Yeah. Yep, that's very true. One of my good buddies, George Payne Jr., tuning us in this morning. He says Kaiser's the best fit for the Bears. And you know what? Thinking about it for a moment, I'm inclined to agree. He's very mobile. He's got a strong arm. He's run a pro-style offense before at Notre Dame, even though it was in the disguise of a spread and a pistol. But he, I believe, would be the best fit for the Bears. Now, what the Bears need to do to make a football decision is to bring in Kaiser, let him learn the offense, then let him play. Don't micromanage him. Don't do anything of the sort. All the great quarterbacks were allowed to play. Aaron Rodgers, Steve Young, Joe Montana, Brett Favre. You see where I'm going? Bring your quarterback in, let him learn, and then let him play. All those examples that I gave, and I'll add one more. Peyton Manning, a sure Hall of Famer. They were all allowed to play. Everyone in the Bears organization up top wants to have a piece of the football decisions, and that's just not their decision to make, which brings me to this question. Does John Fox get another year to right the ship?
You look at his overall history, I think Fox has done enough in his NFL career to warrant one more year. You know the guy can win. He's been in the Super Bowl with 2 different franchises. So, and then you also have to consider the Bears have had 19 guys on injured reserve this year. Okay, so they've dealt with an abnormal amount of injuries. You give Fox another shot to come back and able to build the team. You know that he's able to take franchises that were dormant, and what he did, with Carolina, and even bringing Denver back when they looked like they were going on their way down. I mean, it helped that they had Peyton Manning to come in. But, even when he had Tebow that one year, they were able to get to the playoffs. And if you can get to the playoffs with Tim Tebow, you deserve a pat on the back.
That is so true. Speaking of coaches, and the coaching carousel has begun, does Chip Kelly stay put in San Francisco? Does he get another year to bring in everybody that he wants to bring in and put it together?
All right. Now, remember in week 1, me and you talking and laughing at the Rams, how bad they were?
Yes.
Right? And saying, Chip Kelly, maybe the Niners will be better with him this year and their offense. Okay? They've also dealt with a lot of injuries, too.
Yes, they have. Yes, they have.
They've had 14 or 15 guys on injury reserve here as well. But here's the thing, okay? Chip Kelly got his guys in there in Philadelphia. You look at the first 2 years of him being in Philly, when he didn't necessarily have all his guys, that's when Philly was really the best under him. So is getting his guys a good thing? You still don't know whether or not his system can win in the NFL. It's a gimmick. And the one thing we know about the NFL is they pick up and know how to guard gimmicks very quickly. You might have initial success, like Tony Sperano did with the Wildcat. But, where is Tony Sperano now as far as innovative offensive coordinators? Never hear him talk anymore. So Kelly could be one of those guys that, maybe he can come in and be an offensive assistant, but to be a head coach and to build the whole program around the Oregon Ducks way of doing things, I'm not sure if it works well in the NFL, because it's just, it's like in hockey, if you want to build a team that's built purely on speed, okay, you can have success on it, but eventually when you get to the postseason, you're going to need some guys to be able to kick and bruise and bang.
Yes.
Put up with over a 7-game series. Okay? In the NFL, you can get away with speed here and there, but you definitely need a bruising offensive line. You need a defensive line that can you can stick a couple guys in there to stop the run and play a physical defense. And I'm not sure if that system is built well enough for that, where you might see a couple games here where they could put some big numbers, but overall you're going to need more than that. And while it can work in college because you're not dealing with the type of massive people that you're dealing with in the NFL, I think that's going to be a hard thing for Kelly to be able to continue with. And the Niners maybe will get another year, 2 years at the most. And if they don't see a drastic improvement next year, then he won't get a third year. If they're 2-13 at this time next year, he's going to be gone.
Yeah.
Especially if, you tell me. Now they have to, Blaine Gabbert isn't the answer. And Kaepernick, who at one point looked like the next greatest thing. And if you look at his numbers, 15 touchdowns, 4 picks. His completion percentage is a little low, but it's not like he's turning the ball over, and that's probably one of the worst things you can do as a quarterback, to lose games. So it's not like Kaepernick is losing games for them.
Right.
And they haven't really been close this year. I mean, you look at some of the games they've lost. Most of the games they've lost have been by double digits. So they're not exactly in games in the fourth quarter and just not making plays. They're really struggling this year. You look at a negative 169-point differential for the 49ers. That's the worst for them since going back to 2004 when Erickson was their coach. Okay? So it's a big, 2005 when Nolan was their head coach. So a lot of that has to do with the fact that they don't hold the ball long enough on offense, that gimmick style. If you don't have out running it the best you can, you're going to open yourself up to a lot of blowouts. And I think that's what happened to the Niners this year. But again, I really don't think that system can work in the NFL. What do you think, Brian?
I think Kelly gets another year to turn it around, but you're right. That system is not going to work unless you bring the right people in. But I like your hockey reference. You can build your team around speed, but you got to have some people to bang some opponents around on the boards. You got to have some strength in there too, and that's where the 49ers are lacking. They got to have some strength. But be that as it may, 15 on injured reserve injuries throughout the course of the year. They lose Carlos Hyde for a while. Their running game, they can build around their running game. 4 years ago, got to remember, they had the most powerful running game in the NFL, but they trusted it. I think the 49ers should go forward with Kaepernick, give him the keys, and let him run the team and let him run the offense for an entire season. You brought up two very good numbers, 15 touchdowns, 4 picks. And it's like you said, it's not like he's turning the ball over. But you got to build around. You got to build the offensive line, because that offensive line was a sieve after week 1. All right.
Right. Yep.
Whoever was the quarterback in San Francisco, be it Gabbert or Kaepernick, they were going to get hit because that offensive line, not only was it a sieve, they're very, very young, and they needed this year to play together. Joe Staley's the anchor of the offensive line. But you got to have some guys. You got to build it the way the Cowboys built their line in the 90s and today. The offensive line is the biggest part. And I think that's where the 49ers will go. Beg your pardon. I think that's where the 49ers will go draft-wise. Here's another question while we're speaking of coaches. Mark Helfrich out at Oregon. Does he reunite with Chip Kelly, or does he go elsewhere?
Yeah, that'd be an interesting thing. But again, I don't even know if that's going to help at this point. Just because you bring in more Oregon guys to run your system, you still don't have the things that we talked about.
True.
So unless Helfrich can play on the offensive line, I don't see how that's going to really help them. But what I really want to get to, Brian, and I think what everybody wants to know, is what the New York Jets are going to do. Because I think that's the biggest question.
I knew you did.
Are you kidding me? I mean, you talk about a franchise that's totally lost.
Yeah.
After last year, can you believe that McCagnon and Bowles actually got awards for like a GM of the year or front office of the year last year for what they did, 10-6 and losing to Buffalo in the final game of the year. Since they lost to Buffalo in that final game of 2015, which happened in January of 2016, 2016 has just been a total disaster for the Jets.
That's an understatement.
2015 ended with a dramatic win over the Patriots on their home field, which looked like it would get them into the postseason. And then everything since then has been a total car crash.
Yeah.
You looked at the way they played the last 4 weeks, starting with their Monday night debacle against Indianapolis and ending with last Sunday's humiliation over Tom Brady. I mean, how many times has Tom Brady done that to the Jets, where he's totally humiliated them? Okay? I mean, it happens over and over and over and over again. And the Jets are the one that made him because of stupid Mo Lewis. Okay? So really the Jets have no one but themselves to blame.
Yeah.
But when you think of that game on Sunday was probably the biggest indictment against Todd Bowles, because the Jet defense this year, which was supposed to be their strength, has been an absolute embarrassment. You look at the guys that they brought in 2015, Darrell Rufus is not himself at all. He's had times this year where he's looked absolutely disinterested. Overall, 29th in the NFL in points allowed. They've produced the second fewest turnovers in the NFL. You've gotten to the point to where in some of these games they just look either totally disinterested, totally bored, or totally confused. You don't know what it is, because so many games this year they've gone out and you see wide receivers running untouched in the secondary. You see nobody near the opposing quarterback, which the Jets were supposed to do. They were supposed to get to the quarterback with that great defensive line.
Yep.
Muhammad Wilkerson signed a record contract in the offseason. He's had one of the worst seasons of any defensive lineman in Jet history. I mean, where do you go from there with him? He's got to be there for another year at least, when he shouldn't get another season with the way that he's on. Sheldon Richardson, who at one point looked like one of the best up-and-coming players on a defensive line in the NFL, he's had a season where you wondered if he's going to even show up for meetings. Okay? Here's the perfect ending to talking about the Jets. Tom Brady in his career against the Jets, 23-7, 44 touchdowns, 13 picks against the Jets, and it ended perfectly. I think on Sunday with them winning 41-3, and the Jets showing absolutely no fight.
None.
But
None.
No, but that's happened in prime time this year, losing to the Cardinals on Monday night, getting embarrassed, losing at home to the Colts and getting embarrassed, playing against the Patriots this Sunday, getting embarrassed. Too many times the Jets have come out and absolutely been horrible where they showed no fight.
Mm-hmm.
To me, if it's a coaching problem, then Todd Bowles needs to go. Or if you look at it and say, well, the players aren't good enough, well, then McCagnon needs to go because he's had 2 drafts to get guys in to make the team better, and the Jets now are worse than they've ever been. You look at the Jets haven't been this bad since, dare I say, Rich Kotite. So,
there's a name for
right?
you.
and you know what the best thing about Rich Kotite was that he brought in Bill Parcells. So
yeah.
maybe they're finally at the spot where they're like, you know what? We can't trust this next guy theory. We got to go out and get a Bill Cowher. We got to go out and get Ted Thompson from Green Bay. We've got to go out and get Harbaugh from Baltimore. I don't care what it takes. Get Ozzie Newsome from Baltimore. It's, I forget Kevin Donahue from Pittsburgh. Somebody in here who knows how to build, draft, and consistently put together a team that can win. You know you're not going to get Bell.
No.
But, somebody who can do that. And I'm sick of this franchise thinking they know better than anyone else and trying to come up with the next guy and continually failing. Yet not going back to the fact that there are guys out there who have proven they can win in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you look at a guy like Bill Cowher, who won how many division titles with Pittsburgh? How many times did they finish with the best record in the AFC?
Mm-hmm.
The Jets have never finished with the best record in the AFC.
Never.
It's since the merger. So
since the merger. Wow. Never finished with the best record in the AFC since the merger. And I think I just lost him. Doggone it. Oh man. That's great. That's great. Oh my goodness. Let me see if I can get him back on here. Had him for a second. Oh, we're at the top of the hour, and I think we're going to close up shop. So, one of my good friends, Sherry Tipton, tuning us in. I think I got. Oops. I'm sorry about that. You back with me, Mark? Mark, you there?
yeah. Hey, bud. Sorry, we disconnected, but are we still on?
Yeah, we're still here. I was hoping you'd come back so you could finish your Jets rant. But before you do, let me say this: I've become such a fan now of hearing Joe and Evan on WFAN each week go completely off about the Jets.
Yeah,
and that's what this reminds me of. I know so many frustrated Jet fans. I know so many frustrated Bear fans that have had epic rants like this. All right.
All right, because I can go for a while. This is Jet therapy. I'll give you a better name. You know Steve Summers on WFAN?
Haven't heard him, but I'll look him up.
Steve Summers was a guy who did the overnight for years before Beningo got. Because Beningo used to be the overnight guy.
Oh, okay.
And he took it over from Steve Summers. Now, Steve Summers used to have a segment where he would call Jet therapy.
Jet therapy.
Jet fans playing a whole intro and everything, and it would be Jet fans calling up and sitting down on the couch and talking about the total lack of success that this franchise has had. So that's perfect, I think.
So is this therapy for you now? That's what it sounds like.
A little bit. But I think for most Jets fans, the real therapy would have been, look, I'll give you a perfect example as far as what Jet fans can and can't handle. Okay? The last Jet game I went to was in 2002. All right? They played the New England Patriots, and this was the year after Tom Brady took them to the Super Bowl.
Right.
In his rookie, not his rookie year, but his first year as starter. Okay? I thought that Brady, that whole 2001-2002 offseason, I thought Brady was a flash in the pan, a guy who got so lucky, who, just happened to have everything fall right, didn't really read too much besides throwing up these short passes to his running back.
Mm-hmm.
And, even, the tuck rule and all that stuff, I thought that everything was rigged to help him, okay? So in 2002, the season starts with the Jets beating Buffalo up in Buffalo in overtime, okay? Week 2, they play the Patriots at home. And I'm thinking, great. Now the Jets get Brady. They're going to bury him. They're going to cook him. They're going to show the Patriots who the best team in the AFC East is, and it won't even be close. So they go out there, and they 44-7. Okay? That was the first Tom Brady. 44-7, they lose. And the game ends in a Victor interception return for a touchdown. Now, Victor Green was a long-time Jet.
Yes.
Secondary guys to play. So that was the ultimate screw you for Jet fans. All right? But now I'm in the parking lot for that game. As I'm in the parking lot getting ready to leave, and I'm looking around at this mess, which is called the New Jersey Turnpike, that I'm trying to get back onto. And I'm thinking, and I'm saying to myself, how many times have I been here? How many times I've been into my car, totally infuriated because this team just lost, broke my heart, and now I'm stuck in this total cluster, outside of the Meadowlands because I believe in this team. And I said, you know what? I've had it. I've absolutely had it. I will never come back to this place as long as I live. The only chance I have of coming back here is if the Jets host an AFC Championship game, which they never have done.
Nope.
And they never have done since. So the next time you see me at the Meadowlands, it will be the AFC Championship game. Which if you ask me, you'll never see me there again. It's either I'll die, or I'll live another 50 years and I'll never make it. So how do you like that?
So knowing I'm going to play devil's advocate just to mess with you, if it happens in the next few years, you're not coming on the air on Tuesday. You're coming on that Monday when it happens.
Well, that would be, first of all, we'd have to wake up because we'd be in heaven. Second of all, I don't imagine that happening anytime soon with the way they played. But to just give you an idea, a big time fan, which I am, and I've bitten them off as far as never going to another game, and I've kept it. And believe me, Brian, I've had people beg me to go to games. I've been given free tickets. Free tickets, here you go. Go to the game. No, absolutely not. I will not waste my time and give that franchise 1 cent of my money until they prove to me that they're serious about winning. And they never have. I'm sorry. You think this is funny?
No.
They're worse than me.
Like I said, the reason I'm laughing is because, like I said, you remind me of Joe and Evan and how they go off about the Jets. Lord knows I've done the same about my 49ers the past couple of seasons. Don't get me wrong. Been there, done that, got the T-shirt, burned the son bitch when I got done with it, okay?
Yeah, you have 5 Super Bowls. You have 5 Super Bowls, Brian, okay? You can go take your 5 Super Bowls and hug them. Right? And you can take your 14 NFC Championship games that you posted and rest in those. Okay? Not one time have the Jets hosted a championship game.
Yeah.
There are only 3 teams that can say that. Them, the Titans, and the Chiefs since the merger. Okay? Now, both the Titans and the Chiefs, the Titans and Oilers, both the Titans and Chiefs have had home field advantage throughout the playoffs, but lost the divisional round. Okay?
Yes.
KC in 95 and 97 had home field advantage, lost in the divisional round to the Colts and Broncos. And then the Titans in 2008 had home field advantage, lost to Pittsburgh. So it's happened to them. The Jets have never been in a position to where they had the best record games. And I don't know if they ever, and we talked about 2008 earlier in the broadcast with the Dolphins winning the AFC East.
Right.
There was a point in that year where the Jets, that was Brett Favre was their quarterback, okay? And they were 8-3. They were coming off road wins against the Patriots on Thursday night and against Tennessee, who were undefeated
Right.
at the time and who wound up with the best record in the AFC that year. And the Jets manhandled Tennessee. They beat them like 34-17, and they beat the Patriots in overtime in a game that Matt Castle led them back and was one of the best games of the year. But at 8-3, they looked like they were going to be the best team in the AFC.
Oh, lost him again. Well, we're going to wrap up shop here because if there's a third part to this, make up in a few minutes. Someone said they lost my video feed. Oops.
All right, so do we need to finish this, or is there?
I think we need to wrap this up, man.
Okay. All right. Well, like I said, for the last 5 games in 2008, which includes a loss to the 49ers, an awful night here. Then they fought. And the Dolphins will win. So it goes back a couple times, but yeah, thank you for letting me get this off my chest.
You're welcome, brother. I will talk to you after the new year. Thanks, my friend.
God bless. I'm looking forward to talking the playoffs.
All right. God bless, brother. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
We're out of here, folks. I'll talk to y'all January 2nd when we come back with a great show